Metal Gear Solid The Master Collection Volume 1. Definitely a game out of Japan because of the long name. Nate, you recently played through Metal Gear Solid 1. I've been playing through the classic Metal Gears. I played through Metal Gear 1. I've been playing through Metal Gear 2 over on Degenerate Plays, so the link to that is in the description down below. But something we wanted to talk about today for a few minutes is just kind of the improvements around Metal Gear Solid's Master Collection and kind of the future of what these could be. Now that part might age, when the future ones are out, but I do think something that's really cool that they've done is actually improved this collection. Now we'll talk about that, but I do also want to recognize that I personally don't think games should have to come out and improve. I personally think that a game, unless it's like a niche situation, like you are a live service game, you're always online, things like that, Fortnite, Marvel Rivals now, Overwatch, all those things. Unless you're a game like that, I really would prefer your game comes out, it has a digital option and a disc option, and it's just done. Especially when it's old games. But that said, I think the Master Collection was a poor launch that was still worth owning for people who didn't have access to those games on older tech, that now has gotten a lot better. So I guess I'll leave that question to you guys. First off, what do you think of the state of this game, and do you think it's a good sign for the future? I'm also adding this in post. Up till now, we've shown just the old gameplay of the games from launch on this collection, but within the next couple minutes, I'm going to start showing some of the comparisons of how it has actually changed, because I do think that that is something that should be recognized, because it's gotten way, way better. I was actually kind of blown away at the clarity, especially of games like MGS 2 and 3, now with the version 2.0 update, I believe, and on, versus when it actually came out. Because Nate, you played through Metal Gear Solid 1, you didn't really have issues with the port because, first off, you didn't have the older versions of this. It was something where I think we have a PS3, so we can buy, and I have, and I think you ended up getting, the Legacy Collection. But a lot of people don't have a PS3, or they don't have a PS2 that these were on. And so I think that it's interesting where when this came out, I said, hey, look, this has got issues I'm not a fan of. There's certain things I wish had been included that weren't, like some of the mini games on the PS2 version, or even some of the widescreen availability and stuff like that. But it was worth owning for people who didn't have the older hardware to play it. And I remember people were very annoyed just at that statement. But it was weird to me because it's like, for me, the way I saw it was, yeah, it shouldn't have problems, but I'd rather have the games available not perfectly than not available at all.
Yeah, right. And I think for me, it was very cool to have the game because, well, I do have the PS3 collection of Metal Gear Solid. That PS3 collection does not have Metal Gear Solid 1 on it. It comes with a digital option that you can download it from the store. However, because I didn't buy that at launch, I bought it secondhand from someone on eBay. Either the digital code wasn't working or it just wasn't available anymore on the store.
Yeah, a lot of them expired.
Yeah, so I never had Metal Gear Solid 1 as playable. Now, I could go and buy the original on the PS1 and play it. I could, but I never did. So it was very cool for me to get that game specifically on the PS5, and I think that actually helped when I played through it. It's not perfect, I agree, but it was still fun. I'm happy I can play it. It
was very odd to me because it's like, I'm glad players called out the problems with it. So don't get me wrong on that. I think we both are. But it was odd to me where it was like the statement of, yeah, I think, this is worth buying, especially if you don't have the old versions, was like angering to some people.
Yeah.
I thought that was a little odd because it's kind of like, okay, well, would you rather that people, because these people aren't gonna, not to be mean here, but like a lot of people are not gonna go buy a PS3.
Yeah.
They're just not.
Right. Yeah.
Or they're not gonna go buy a PS2. They probably have more modern hardware, they probably don't have a ton of disposable income. So they're not gonna be like, well, I should build a gaming PC because this port was not great. So I'll build a gaming PC and do it myself.
Right.
It's like they're not going to do that. So for me, it was something where it was like, yeah, this is nice for people who don't have access to the older versions of these games. That said, I think it's gotten a lot better over time.
Yeah.
You know, and that's something I actually do applaud Konami for is, yeah, they deserve criticism for the bad launch. So giving them credit for fixing it is not taking away that criticism. I think the best case scenario was there was no bad launch.
Right.
But,
best case scenario, it's all on disc.
Yeah, that's right. True. But I think that with this, you know, it's like, how many games have we looked at that never got fixed ever? You know, you were even talking about, I suppose it's a different subject, but we recently both played through Assassin's Creed Revelations on the Ezio collection. I can't tell you how many glitches, bugs, and crashes I ran into.
Yeah.
And it's like, that game has been out on disc for years, and before that it was on 360 and PS3 and PC for years, and Ubisoft never bothered to fix it. You know, they didn't care. So I'm kind of sitting here like, I don't like the way the launch was handled. I still think it was better than not having anything. It's better than not having it. But I'm actually really happy that they've been adding in all these fixes.
If you were to approach me maybe 10 years ago and tell me that Konami looks like they actually care about their games, I would have laughed in your face.
Right.
But it's kind of weird to sit there and credit Konami with something like this. But I do actually think they are trying with it. And they did actually admit publicly that they messed up with the launch.
Yes.
And now they're working on fixing it and so on by releasing patches and fixes and updates. Like, for example, widescreen option.
Something that should have been in the game from the start. But,
yeah,
but hey, you know, it's better than it's here now.
Yeah. Yeah,
there's a pixel perfect mode now, which a lot of people really like.
Yep. And I think that stuff should have just been on the disc.
Yeah.
You know, so then we just have it always. But I'm very happy that it's here.
So like you said, they did mention that they messed up, which I think is worth recognizing and good. Production producer Noriaki Okamura actually talked about it with a Q&A and basically said that they needed to do better. You know, they were talking about it, and they were talking about the mess up and said, we're also worried about how Volume 1 had a pretty rough launch with all of its issues, so we're going to do everything we can not to repeat that, but we just have to ask everyone to give us time. Now, I think when it comes down to it for, you know, people, when a game producer or developer says, like, hey, give us a chance or give us time, people immediately get mad because I think they've been taken for a ride way too often.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like too many development studios and production companies have tried to screw people out of money for the least possible effort. My thing is that if they wanted to do that, I think they very easily could have just dropped the game after its release. You know, they could have just said, like, hey, you know what, this is the game. It's better than nothing. And just left it. And that would have been true, but it would have been very lazy. And so I'm really happy with the state it's in now, because to me, when I'm looking forward at this time, that makes me more hopeful for the future of the franchise. You know, at the moment we record this, Metal Gear Solid Delta is not out yet, but all of the reports around it for, like, people who have had hands-on experiences and stuff are that it's like a fanatically faithful recreation of the original Metal Gear Solid 3, except that it's just expanded gameplay.
Right.
With more options. So I'm looking at this, I'm looking at Silent Hill 2's remake, which I think was excellent. I'm looking at Metal Gear Solid Delta, which isn't out at the time of recording this, but according to all reports, is excellent. I'm looking at them saying, we know we screwed up with Master Collection 1, we're going to fix this. And to me, that's making me more, I guess, open to the future of this franchise. Whether it's new games, which I know people are very hesitant on, or whether it's more Master Collections, the fact that they're willing to actually say, we screwed up, which is not common for Japanese companies to do especially. I think they very often don't want to say that because it's kind of like a public disgrace type thing that they see as like, this is a dishonorable way for our company to be seen. I think the fact that they're willing to admit that, they've had some good launches, and going forward it looks better. It like you said, you know, years ago, if you said Konami was coming back or that they cared, I think everyone would be like, yeah, whatever.
Right.
But I think this is a good sign.
Yeah, no, I agree, and especially for the next Master Collection, whether there's going to be one or two more, I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
For sure there's going to be one more. I think it's a very good sign with them going forward, because now it seems like they understand their mistakes, they understand their errors. I should say, I think they understand what fans want. You know, I think fans want I don't want to say like a faithful port of the old stuff, but they want it, first of all, to not have any glitches or bugs or anything like that.
Right.
They want it to play well, but I think they want added options onto it to enhance it. Like, I think most people, when they play a port of an old game in general, I think most people are kind of like, what are you going to add to it?
Yeah.
You know, and even maybe the addition is literally just make it in 4K and run at 60 FPS. Maybe that's all. But I think a lot of people are just like, you know, what are you going to add to this to make it worthwhile? And hopefully with the Master Collection 1, they understand people want things like full screen mode, you know, for MGS1, for example, or, you know, different things like that. And now maybe they can launch the Collection 2 with some of those fixes as well.
Well, especially if it has Metal Gear Solid 4 on it, which is a game that has been trapped on the PS3 forever.
Yeah.
And a game that, you know, it's actually interesting. I was reading an interview about this. They were talking about, I believe Ryan Payton was talking about this, and said essentially that there was a version of the game that was pitched for Xbox 360, and that, you know, they had considered that, but that it was never finalized and made.
Yeah.
So it's like, you kind of look back at that opportunity for Xbox players, and you're kind of like, oh, well, those people are kind of probably frustrated, because it's like they got Metal Gear Solid, you know, 2 and 3, and then 5. So
right.
4 is not on there. And then you're also looking at how it's trapped on the PS3, which we have, so that's not our problem. But then people have made it work on PC. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of one of those things where I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, the preservation of Konami games has been pretty terrible. You know, you look at things like the way that they didn't preserve the original Silent Hill games, and you look at how the Silent Hill HD collection was on PS3 and 360, it was a joke.
Yeah.
And, you know, the fact that they lost a lot of that code in the final builds and stuff, I'm still hoping that what happens from this is that the Master Collection Volume 1 was profitable enough. Volume 2, I'm hoping that people will have faith in because of this effort after the fact. That said, if they don't, Konami kind of did that to themselves. Mm-hmm. And that these will be profitable enough, because that's what it really all comes down to for companies, that they will look at their other franchises. Because guess what? I personally don't think these collections would have ever happened if the Castlevania ones hadn't come out and been doing so well. You know, because Castlevania was kind of where they started bringing Konami stuff back, and it was doing great. You know, like, it was selling very well digitally, they were selling very well through limited run and through all of these different distribution things, and I think that was kind of them testing the waters of, like, do people still care about our games?
Yeah.
And I think that worked, and I think now we're on Metal Gear, and it's like, I think you have to get this step right to see even more Konami games. That said, we saw some more Contra recently, so it does kind of seem like they're going back into the well of what they own, and actually either licensing it to other developers or bringing in other development studios like Bloober, who did Silent Hill 2 Remake, or they're saying, well, how do we get this stuff in the hands of modern day gamers? And then there's also the side of it where they're like, well, some people aren't going to want to play these games because they're old. I hate that idea, but it is true. And for those people, or even just fans of the original, they're doing stuff like Metal Gear Solid Delta. So it's like, that's for both old fans and for people who have never played Metal Gear Solid before to jump in. I think it's a really good strategy if you can stick the landing. I think the problem is that Volume 1 showed they didn't stick the landing. It's just, I think that fixing it is a much better step and solution to this that can prove that you care over just being like, yeah, well, it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, and I hope the fans respond with that.
Yeah.
You know, fans, I think, are a little, and I think just in general, fans are a little fickle when it comes to things. If something's not, like, perfect or exactly what they want, then they just get angry and whatnot. And I think at times it's fair, and at times it's a little ridiculous. And I guess for me, I just kind of hope that fans recognize that they're trying and will actually go and buy the Master Collection 2. Mm-hmm. Because let's be honest with you, companies in general have gotten very business-oriented. So if Master Collection 2 comes out and it just bombs, they're going to be like, everyone hates old games.
Yeah, they're just not going to bother.
Yeah, that's their mindset. It's just, everyone hates these. It's like, no, people like them. they just kind of are weary of it because you launched so poorly with the first one.
Right.
Whether you're fixing it or not, that's not really the point. It's just, I think fans in general need to go out and, well, first of all, hopefully it's good. Yeah. Hopefully it's done well.
Like, I don't think you need to buy it if it's, like, horrendously bad.
If it's horrible, then obviously don't. But I'm just saying, if they actually put in the effort for Master Collection 2, I'm like, please go out and buy it. Show them that you care about this, because then we'll get more. Then maybe we'll get a Silent Hill 1, 2, and 3 Master Collection.
Yeah, or maybe we'll get, like the Metal Gear spin-offs. Maybe Metal Gear Solid Volume 2 does so good that they're like, hey, let's port those PSP Metal Gear Acid spin-offs. Let's port, all Ghost Babel. Let's port all these different things that, you don't have easy access to in the West unless you have a PC and you're emulating it. Yeah. In which case you're not buying it from anybody, probably, because it's so old.
Yeah,
if we're being honest. And that's the thing, is, like, I don't want to be fickle myself. My point isn't like, hey, it's better than nothing, shut up and buy it. Because there's way too many companies that do that.
Yeah.
My point with the first impression was just, it genuinely is that a lot of people don't have access to these games. You can tell them what to do. You can tell them, well, why don't you go build a PC and download emulation? Well, they're not going to.
Yeah.
And you can say, well, that's their fault. Fine. They're still not going to. So it's like that whole market you miss out on. You miss out on console-only gamers, or more casual gamers, or any of these different things, or any of the people who might not, be huge fans of older games, but, like, maybe they were going to give this a chance because everybody talked about it, and then they play it and they're like, oh, why is this port so bad? It's like, if you don't have a good port, you miss out on that. If you have no port, you miss out on everybody in the modern day. And, I was reading a thing where Konami representatives were talking about Metal Gear, and one of the reasons they were bringing it back is because people don't know what it is anymore.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of, like, Metal Gear Solid 5 came out, it was huge, but it's not like everyone in the world bought it, and since then, it's just been radio silence on the series. So they didn't want the series to completely die, and why they didn't want it to die is because of money, and that, I get that, but at the end of the day, these games mean more to people than money. So it's something where I hope they take it seriously. I hope they actually are taking those lessons into account. I'm glad that they are fixing the Volume 1. Are there a lot of things that I wish they had included or done better? Sure. But to me, this is one of those things that does show that at least people like Okamura, who are in charge of production, do care about the series. I don't know about people above him, like some suit who's, like, cheating on his wife with, like, 3 other Japanese women in his hotel room. I don't know, because, like, a lot of these CEO and, like, high-up execs are sleazeballs who don't care. But I know that someone like Okamura does care. And I think that that's very good, because he's someone who has been involved with the series for a very long time. Even before it went on hiatus. So I think that's good. I don't know, Nate, do you have any final thoughts? Because I think what you said about people responding to it is good. I think, personally, people are way too quick to say, this was one mistake, I'm done. I think.
Yeah.
And I get that. I get that mentality. You don't owe anyone your money. Like, it's your money. You can do whatever you want. But for me, it's like, I understand that, and if it's one mistake and it's never fixed, yeah, I'm not coming back. Because it's like, well, I'm not going to trust you next time. But if you're trying to fix it, to me at least, I guess for me, I'm a little more forgiving on that. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I think me and you in general are more forgiving with things. And maybe companies we shouldn't be as forgiving with, like Ubisoft. But I think in general we are, like, we recognize effort. I guess is kind of what I'm getting down to.
Like a lack of effort at first, and then, that got called out, which was good.
Yeah.
And now there's an effort. So it's like, do you call out the lack of effort and then punish them again when they do try? Like, to me, what that doesn't send a message. If you're like, hey, you didn't try, fuck you, and they're like, oh, we're trying now, and you're like, still fuck you.
Right.
It's like, well, now you're just telling them they shouldn't try.
Yeah.
Because you're telling them they get nothing out of trying. Like, to me, that's bad. Like, that's why I want to support things.
And that kind of, that's kind of backwards to me.
Yeah.
Support things, support companies and whatever when they try. And when they don't try, then don't support them.
Right.
Kind of tell them, yeah, this is a very boring thing.
You put nothing into this.
You know, and then maybe next time they'll put something into it and then go support it.
And if they don't again, then well, I'm not buying that, right?
Yeah,
it's just weird to me because I've seen so many people punish the company when they decide to try it.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, you're right, this was really stupid of us, this was really dumb, we'll fix it. And you're like, no, it's too late.
Yeah. Well, and
it's like, well, then why did you complain about it in the first place if you don't want it to be better?
And that's how I feel like, you know, kind of as like a last thought, that's kind of how I feel like with the Assassin's Creed community, you know. I mean, the Assassin's Creed community is so insane. Like, let's just be honest here, they're angry. But I feel like after the problems of Unity, which were problems, a lot of fans were just like, I'm not giving it a chance, I'm done, you know, kind of a thing.
Like, I'm never coming back.
I'm never coming back. And then I honestly feel like with Origins, I really feel like Ubisoft was kind of like, okay, we need to do things right here.
Yeah.
And you don't have to love Origins, that's fine. But I'm just saying, they decided to take an extra year off. They decided to put more effort into it. They decided to update the visuals, the gameplay, the graphics. They kind of changed it up a little bit, like Assassin's Creed. You can connect with that change or not. I don't really care. That's not the point. But my point is, Ubisoft, you can tell, tried to do something.
Yeah, and now, to be fair, now you can say they've slunk back into not.
Yeah, you can say that for sure.
I think that's true.
But I think with Origins, they definitely tried to do something. And a lot of fans just still are butthurt about it. Mm-hmm. And they didn't go back into the series. Now, a lot of people still bought Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla, but I'm just saying, a lot of fans in general just complain the whole time because their opinions were so ruined by Unity. Mm. And to me, that was so sad because it's like, well, Ubisoft actually tried with Origins, I think. Mm. They actually tried to update it and whatever, and still a lot of fans were just like, I'm not playing that. And I'm like, okay, this is just stupid then. What are you proving?
Right.
What are you telling the company? You're just telling the company that we don't care about you trying, and then they slunk back into those problems again later on, because I think Ubisoft just realized, you know, well, whatever.
Well, I think they realized we have a built-in community, they'll buy it no matter what. What a bunch of idiots is what they thought. And then they thought, well, these other idiots are just going to complain no matter what, so we're just going to ignore them.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like you're not sending any message to anyone, you're just looking like an idiot.
Well, and so
that's all it is.
For me, that's why I feel like it's important to support them when they're good.
Yes.
You know, and like not support them when they're not good.
Yes.
You know, like things like the Silent Hill HD collection, you shouldn't buy that just because it was the only option at the time. It was bad. Mm-hmm. Like, it was really bad to the point where like it was almost not worth owning bad.
Yeah,
I would say, compared to just don't even play the game at that point. But I do think there was something like this. You're right. You know, like there have been a lot of companies that I think they didn't try, they got called out, then they decided to try, then they got called out again. But then the built-in audience still bought it no matter what. So they said, well, why would we listen to criticism if the people criticizing us aren't our market audience?
Right.
Like, you're not our audience, so like we don't care.
You're just going to complain anyways.
And I think it's something that's unfortunate because it's like that's where you lose voting with your wallets, is where you have the built-in audience that does bitch, or they'll buy anything, and they'll buy it either way. They'll bitch and buy it, or they'll buy it either way and love it. And then you have this audience that is, as soon as there's a mistake, they're like, nah, screw you, I'm never coming back, even if you improve.
Yeah.
And then you never have improvement because it's like there's no financial incentive to improve. And I think, personally, you know, in terms of like morality, I think you should just try to improve as a company no matter what.
Oh, yeah.
But they're not going to.
No.
Because it's like you have a guy like Okamura, it's like, I'm sure he wants to, but like the 12 Japanese execs above him, because they got like $1 trillion for doing nothing by licensing to pachinko machines.
Yeah.
They're not going to care. They're just like, how does this affect my next yacht purchase?
Yeah.
So, and that's the problem. You said, you know, I think the business people, you need business people for art to succeed now because the economy it's rough. There's a worldwide economy. There's 1 trillion options. No one is special enough to not fail. There's always someone else who can step in to fill your niche. Mm-hmm. But I think that the focus on business people is what ruined Konami. It's what pushed out people like Hideo Kojima. Whether you love him or don't, that's one of the things that pushed him out. Their focus on mobile games was only because of finance. it was only because of business at the time. Their focus on licensing to pachinko machines for glorified gambling was only because of money. It wasn't because of art. All of those art people got shut up, stuffed into corners, told to be quiet, or forgotten. And that's why Konami got as bad as it did. And so that's what worries me, is that when things... I know I've said it like 5 times, so I'll be done. But when things do improve, then, all you're doing, if you don't support it when it improves, is telling those business people you were right all along. There was no point putting a financial venture into this. There was no point listening to those artist morons. Like, you were right. You were doing it right before. You put in minimum effort, maximized your profits, and that was good for you. And I think that when you have this punishment mentality of, I'm going to punish you no matter what because you pissed me off because I wasted $70 one time, even if that purchase is fixed later, when you have that punishment mentality, it's literally just telling those business people that they were right and the artist people are the idiots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that doesn't really help anything.
No, it just makes all these games, movies, everything worse.
Yeah, right.
I don't know, that's kind of my final thought on it. I feel like I went on a rant.
Well, I think I'm out of thoughts too.
Okay, well, let us know what you think in the comments down below. If you're interested in supporting the channel, we have a lot of different ways. We have Patreon memberships, all kinds of stuff like that. Fortnite code. We also do as well have our own store, CosmoBunny.shop, where you can use code DJAY123 for 10% off your first purchase. These are things like coasters, keychains, trays, and more, made from recycled, repurposed manga, magazine, comics, and more paper. You might be thinking, well, why are you taking paper and doing this? Well, these are from books that are damaged. They're unable to be sold by local businesses. We take them for dirt cheap. Sometimes we're gifted them. What we do is we take some of that, we save some of that paper, turn it into something new, and then we recycle the rest. So we hope you enjoy that transformative art. All that stuff is in the description. Nate and I play through games as well over on our Let's Play channel, so that's down there too. And have a fantastic day. As always, everyone, stay shway.